Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with our patch 4.2a rundown. Now of course this is coming off the back of patch 4.2, the huge like marksmen update kind of patch. So there's a lot of balancing going on in patch 4.2a. Now, the patch is actually already live, which is really strange because normally they release it on midnight, either on Wednesday or Thursday, like Pacific time. But in this case, they kind of released it somewhere in between those two times. I'm not too sure, but like I went into the game and I realized that the patch was already live, like quite a number of hours ago. But they only just released the patch notes like also a couple of hours ago actually. But the game was updated a couple of hours, a good number of hours before the patch notes were released. But anyways, either way, we're just gonna be going through what's happening in the latest patch. So just some small side notes is that the Kaisa and Gragas changes are not actually in game. Nearly got dictionary to define Gragas there, but they are not. They will not appear in game, but they are still live. So that is something to take note of. So, first up, we're going to talk about new champions. So, they're both coming on June 20th. It's Ornn and Volibear. So, Ornn is generally a tanky top laner that specializes in building items outside of the shop. So, he doesn't actually have to recall to buy items, which is what makes him unique. He's also very tanky, really good team fighter. So, really popular champion. Really excited for him to come out, although I don't even play top, but seems like a nice welcome addition to the squad. Volibear can be played in the top or jungle, similar to Warwick. And he specializes in disabling towers. Definitely not excited to fight him because he loves to of course dive towers and kill people under tower because there is no tower there to begin with when he disables it with his ultimate. So again, they're going to be releasing with a leaderboard event on June 20th, similar to like the Nautilus and Pike one, where you basically pick a side and you can basically accumulate points from playing. Okay, so next up we have a Join the Fluffed Demacia event on June 22nd. These are one of those events that normally last for like 3 to 5 days, and generally they can be completed very very easily, and normally the reward is like an emote or like a icon. Alright, so now jumping to the meat of the patch, the champion changes. So first up, they're buffing Akali, base armor up a little bit and base damage up by 5 on her Q. Now you're going to notice that in this patch, they actually tuned a lot of champions, reducing or increasing like one of their bread and butter abilities, damage by 5 at all ranks. Akali is one of them. So whenever you do an increase or decrease in damage by 5, honestly the impact is not going to be too great, but when you consider how they spam it over time, I guess it will accumulate. But generally these changes don't mean all that much. They're just very very minor number changes. Darius is getting more damage per stack of his passive, and quite a significant amount more. It's like 3 more at all rank and 3 at lower ranks when you used to get 11.5. That's like about a 33% increase, roughly, maybe about 40%. It's pretty significant. So in compensation, they're actually nerfing his damage to jungle monsters. I'm assuming that this too will balance out, so he should do roughly the same or slightly less damage to jungle monsters. But of course they don't want his jungle clear to be too quick, and I think that that's obviously the correct balancing to do. So Ezreal actually didn't get the marksman buffs last patch, so they're giving it to him a patch late because they assume he didn't need it, but obviously when you buff everybody else and he doesn't get the buffs, he's going to fall a little behind. So his AD per level is going up similar to other marksmen in the last patch, and his base attack speed is also going up, again similar to other marksmen from last patch. So of course I'm going to be testing out Ezreal and posting videos on Ezreal soon. The Mystic Shot base damage is getting the Akali treatment, going up by 5 at all ranks. Of course, on Ezreal this is like roughly 2-second cooldown, so you spam it a lot, so 5 damage will kind of accumulate over time. And the True Shot Barrage cooldown is going down at 2nd and 3rd ranks by 5 seconds each, so it's just a little bit better in the late game. Galio is also getting his ulti cooldown reduced by 10 at all ranks. It's really funny because Galio appears to be someone that they have quite a bit of trouble balancing, because it seems that he gets buffed and nerfed a lot. Like, if you guys really think about it and you look at his like patch history, he gets buffed and nerfed, buffed and nerfed, buffed and nerfed, and even with his ult cooldown, I'm pretty sure they nerfed and buffed his ult cooldown a couple of times already. But again, they're buffing his ult cooldown and reducing the cooldown by 10 seconds at all ranks. So that should of course allow him to rotate more quickly. So Gragas now is getting a new condition on his body slam that has a minimum cooldown of 1.25 seconds. Obviously, what people have done is there is a kind of build you can go on Gragas using Transcendence, and if you build ability haste, a lot of ability haste items like Cosmic Drive, for example, there is a circumstance where, because Gragas E, when you hit people with it, it refunds cooldown. So there's a circumstance where you have your E on 0 cooldown, assuming you keep on hitting someone with it, and even though it doesn't do that much damage, it's basically a permanent death. Like, you keep body slamming them until they reach a wall, and then you body slam them against the wall non-stop, and if no teammate comes to help them, you literally kill them like death by 1,000 cuts style, just by body slamming them continuously. And obviously that doesn't really make sense, so of course they have to put a stop to that. So they're actually reverting the nerfs they made on Graves last patch, because they assumed that the new crit items would make him really strong. The truth is, it didn't. So basically they're now giving him back the power that they took away. Essentially means that Graves' crit scaling is going to remain the same from before patch 4.2. So Jhin is really interesting, because the perception is that Jhin is really strong. I see Jhin banned like every other game. Most people think Kai'Sa is the strongest ADC, banned like every game, which I agree with. But most people think that Jhin is like the second strongest ADC, and it's banned every other game, and I don't agree with that at all. I don't think Jhin is that strong. I'll of course be doing a tier list relatively soon, and we will of course be taking a look at my thoughts on how strong Jhin is. But they did mention this especially in lower levels of play, which is pretty interesting. But either way, what they're doing is the attack damage bonus on Whisper is going down from 5% to 4% per level instead. It used to be 3%, so across the two patches it's still above of 1%, but he's no longer going to have that much AD at maximum level. However, in compensation, they're giving him more movement speed, which again is only going to really be taken advantage of in higher elo, because lower elo doesn't really lower elo players will not be too privy to movement speed. But anyways, Dancing Grenade is also getting its attack damage bonus decreased by 5% in all ranks. Now this is not 5 damage, it's 5%, so it actually matters a lot more. So his Q is getting weaker as well. So overall, you're trading AD on your passive and 80% on your Q for more movement speed, which is a trait nobody will ever take. So overall, it's kind of a nerf. But yeah, he was. I don't even know if he was very strong, but he was definitely not weak, I guess. So Kai'Sa is obviously the one that is very strong. She's completely busted. Like, even as a Kai'Sa player, Mastery 7 Kai'Sa, I love playing Kai'Sa, but even I think she's way too strong. Like, there shouldn't be a case where in lane she can 100 to 0 you with one combo. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, she Q, W, auto, and you instantly die. That makes no sense at all. That's way too much damage in the lane. Like, her auto attacks do a lot of damage. Her passive, too much damage. Her Q, also too much damage. Her Q did get buffed like twice over the like last couple of like months or so, and I think that probably they need to tune her Q a little bit. But what they're doing is they're removing the base attack speed she gained from last patch, so she's gonna attack a bit slower, which is of course gonna reduce her DPS, especially in lane and in the jungle as well. People have been playing Kai'Sa jungle a lot, and they of course don't want her to be played jungle, so they're halving her damage on her Q on jungle monsters, which is going to affect her jungle clear tremendously, obviously, because Q is obviously her main way of clearing jungle, especially in the earlier parts of the game. And they're also hitting her W. So her W, Void Seeker, the AD bonus is going down by 20% and AP by 10%. Now, honestly, this doesn't matter all that much, because her W is mostly used to add stacks onto the enemy, unless you're going for AP version of Kai'Sa. If not, this one is mainly used to like add stacks on the enemy, and the damage of this is not overly important, because your Q damage and your auto damage is way more important than W. So overall, if you're playing ADC Kai'Sa, it's more or less just a base attack speed decrease and like some minor changes here. It doesn't matter too much, actually. It's not too big of a nerf. But jungle Kai'Sa, relatively big nerf, I guess you could say. So Kayn is a really interesting one. He's getting buffed to the moon. So the first thing is energy required for transformation is getting reduced from 8k to 7k. Energy gain from champions is going from 18 to 24, so faster transformations. Energy gain from taking down ranged champions, and these are both only on ranged champions, so this is for blue Kayn, is becoming from 90 to 120. And Blue Kane's bonus damage is going from 38 to 52 to 44 to 56. Sounds like Blue Kane's gonna be broken. So I already think Blue Kane is pretty strong, but apparently he's having trouble to transform, and when he transforms, he doesn't have enough damage to kill. Now I'm not sure what's going on with this, but I'm pretty sure that he's already pretty strong. So this is gonna make him really, really strong. And I'm not excited about that, obviously, because Kane can easily one-shot ADCs. Like, he can just come in through a wall, WQ, auto-electrocute, you're dead, kind of situation. So that's no fun. His bonus AD ratio on his W increasing by 10%. Shadow Step, which is the one that walks through walls, is E. Mana cost going down from 80 to 50. And bonus AD ratio is going up by 50%. I'm not sure what AD there is on his Shadow Step, I'm going to be honest, but either way, he's getting buffed all across the board, especially on his Shadow Assassin form. Kha'Zix is getting a buff, like a 5 damage buff to his base damage. I'm pretty sure that they just nerfed it by 5 damage a couple of patches ago, so I'm pretty sure that they're reverting the nerf. But anyways, I still think Kha'Zix is strong regardless. Master Yi, base AD going up by 2, cooldown on Alpha Strikes going down by 1 second in all ranks. I don't know why they keep buffing Master Yi. He isn't performing well in high levels of play, but he will never perform well in high levels of play because people know how to CC him and lock him down. They're not just going to allow him to Alpha Strike and get resets off of everybody, unlike in low elo. So I don't know what they're expecting with Master Yi, but he's definitely not going to be good at high ranks unless he's completely busted like that 1 or 2 times that they buffed him to the moon. Yeah. 1 second cooldown, barely gonna change anything. 2 AD, maybe his clear is a little bit marginally better, but not gonna affect too much. MF, base AD going up by 2, same treatment as Master Yi. Again, it doesn't really matter that much. 2 AD at base is not too significant. Her passive though is doing an extra 5% damage at all levels, so it's just helping her do a little bit more damage with her passive. I do have a Miss Fortune video gonna be coming up, Miss Fortune guide. Haven't made it yet, but I've already got the gameplay, and I still think Miss Fortune is really weak. Like, even with the new item, she doesn't really benefit all that much. I still don't think she's really that strong at all. Pantheon, base mana going up, base mana regen going up, not too important. His Q, his main bread and butter ability, AD ratio up by 10%. Mortal Will bonus AD ratio going up by 10% as well, so more damage on his Q. Cooldown return for not releasing is going up, so he's gonna get more cooldown refunded, which means it's gonna have a lower cooldown if you don't release it. So overall, quite a big increase in Pantheon's bread and butter ability, so that's gonna buff Pantheon quite significantly. And his Grand Starfall bonus AD ratio going up by 10%. That's his ulti. So Pantheon getting pretty huge buff. Pyke also getting a huge buff. So first up, armor and magic resist per level is going up. So he's not going to be so squishy. He's going to be a little bit more tanky, especially in the magic resist side. His passive healing is going up slightly. It's going up by 5% health. And the base is going up by a little bit as well. Don't think that that's too significant. And Bone Skewer damage is actually going up by 10 at all ranks, not 5 but 10, so that's going to do a little bit more damage. And Death from Below executes threshold is going up at 2nd and 3rd rank, so easier to execute people, more damage on your Q. I guess Pyke has been underperforming, so I guess that they're just buffing him on, especially on the late game side. Because they did mention he's having a hard time in the late game, but Pyke kind of is meant to fall off in the mid to late game though. Like, that's how Pyke works. He's good in the early game and then he falls off, because he's obviously a support assassin. So yeah, but we'll see how it goes. So Set, I'm not sure what this changes. I'm not sure what level 5 plus 50% bonus AD to level 7 plus 50% bonus AD really even means, but more or less it's just more damage. So Haymaker, his W hit damage is going, the ratio is going up by 0.005, so from 0.2 to 0.025, so a little bit more damage on his W. Of course, he is a little bit, doesn't feel very strong in this patch, a little bit weak, so they are trying to tune him up a little bit.
Twitch jungle especially is really strong, so they're reducing his passive damage to monsters from 170 to 130, quite significant. His movement speed going down by 20%. Now this mostly affects jungle Twitch because he ganks by going in with his Q. It also affects normal ADC Twitch. However, it affects him a lot less because he's not fully reliant on using his Q all the time. He doesn't have to spam gank, but it does affect ADC Twitch. And the Contaminate, his E damage to monsters, getting the same treatment as his passive. So overall, his jungle clear should be weaker. It already sucked before this nerfs, so I think Twitch jungle may possibly be dead. Urgot, struggling since his release, I kind of agree. His Purge on hit effect is going up, so more effective on hits, and his ulti is getting a bigger AD ratio, so these two changes are pretty significant, should help him out quite a bit. Now Varus. Now, of course, we're still releasing Varus videos. We just released the Lethality one, and we're gonna, of course, be releasing a couple more Varus videos in the coming days of all of Varus's builds, and AP is the last build we're gonna cover, but AP seems to be a really strong build. He one-shots people pretty easily, so what they're doing is they're reducing his percent health damage by 5% at all ranks, and they're halving his ability power ratio, so this hits AP Varus quite hard. Now, I've played Varus after the patch. As I mentioned, the patch kind of came randomly in between, and I have played the nerfed Varus, AP Varus nerfed in the new patch. I still think AP Varus is still pretty good, so don't have to worry too much about that, but definitely you can feel the decrease in damage. So Vayne apparently didn't get this treatment last patch, but she's now getting the increase in base attack speed and attack speed per level. I guess they assumed she's going to be building all of the new items, so they didn't really give it to her, and now they did, so huge buff to Vayne. Yone getting the Kai'Sa treatment, base attack speed going down, and of course damage to monsters also going down quite significantly. Like early game 80 to 30 is huge, like you're going to do no damage to monsters with your W anymore, so they're trying to hurt Yone's jungle clear. They're trying to nerf Yone out of the jungle. They have been trying to do that for the past like many patches, but he never really has been nerfed out of the jungle. He's still getting played in the jungle, especially in pro play, so that never really worked for them. Okay, so next up, item changes. These are quite significant item changes. So first up, we have Bloodthirster. AD up by 5, but physical vamp down by 3. So they think there's too much physical vamp with Shield Bow, Vampirism, and Bloodthirster running around, so they have made this adjustment. Now, I'm not too much to say about this adjustment. It's just like a seesaw balancing act with the stats. I personally think that the old one was obviously better with more physical vamp, but 12% physical vamp is still pretty good, so I don't think it's too bad. Essence Reaver kind of sucked. So they're giving it a really huge buff. Instead of having a 6-second cooldown, it's going to be 4 seconds, and instead of having crit rate times 30%, which is basically going to be only effective in the late game, now they're giving it 20% base plus crit rate times 10%. Now this is probably going to make the item good, because 20% base means it makes sense for a first item, and having a lower cooldown means it's going to be up more often. So this is definitely going to be used on Lucian. I think it may or may not be used on like Xayah and like Corki, depending on how bad the 4-second cooldown is. Like again, I pointed out that on Xayah, you want the damage increase to be on your pullback of your feathers. So if you can get it up again by the time you want to cast your pullback, then this could be a good thing. But we'll have to see how it goes. So Shield Bow, getting its like scaling reduced. So instead of 5 points of shield per 1% crit, it's now 3 points of shield per 1% crit. So instead of going up to 700, it now only goes up to 500, so a lot smaller shield. And the Battle Fury physical vamp is going down by 5%. That's the one you get when you trigger the Shield Bow. Yeah, so we knew Shield Bow was going to get nerfed. It was way too strong. The shield was way too huge, so this is not a surprise. I think this is going to make it a lot more balanced, but the hit to the physical vamp is pretty bad as well. Like, the shield value, I knew it was going to come, but the physical vamp one, yeah, that was kind of sad. Phantom Dancer is now basically getting nerfed in a sense that it's costing 100 gold more, and attack speed is going down by 5% when you activate your Spectral Ward. So total 55 instead of 60. This is because a lot of people bought it as first item, so they're trying to make this more closer to a second item kind of deal. Now, Rift Herald can now only collide into 2 towers, so basically they're making it such that Rift Herald is guaranteed to die. Oops, it's guaranteed to die when hitting the second turret. This is pretty big nerf to Rift Herald, because I have had games where I hit Rift Herald all the way into the base, like first tower into second tower into inhibitor into base. Like I have done that before, and this only works when no one defends. So if it happens that your team makes a good macro play and heralds the opposite side of the enemy team, like for example, if the enemy team is all doing dragon, and you herald in like, you know, the top side of the map instead, you can actually take down 3 towers with 1 Rift Herald like really quickly. So I think that this is a very good change, because I don't think Rift Herald is meant to be this powerful. But yeah, again, there's only 1 Rift Herald, so maximum you can get is 2 charges, which is pretty tragic when you think about it. So upcoming, we have quite a number of skins. Of course, we have the Ornn and Volibear skins, new Galio skin, as well as the Shanghai Scrolls skin line, and the Battle. I have no idea what this skin line is called, but it's the Battle Bunny, Battle Cat, you know, skin line. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this patch. Thank you guys so much for watching the rundown, and goodbye.